What's going on, everybody? It's Zach back here, and it feels like it's been ages since we last recorded an episode. Even though I was in the last one, it feels like it's been a long time. But I'm here with both of my cousins, Eric and Connor. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. My birthday is coming up. I am pumped.
Yeah, pretty good. Just getting closer to going back to school, so not looking forward to that, but gotta enjoy the rest of my winter break.
Yeah, but all that being said, this was a crazy wildcard weekend. We're going to get into the wildcard games. We're also going to share the reasoning behind our predictions for next week's games, and in between, we are going to have a special segment that Eric is going to lead. So Eric hinted his birthday's coming up. It's going to be on the day that we release this episode. No, the day after. It's going to be on the 8th. Yeah, but I mean, we're recording this right when it's going to be released. This is going to be
Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is Tuesday at 12:13 a.m.
Yeah, so just in a couple hours, it's going to be online. But Eric's birthday's coming up, so we have he's got a special giveaway that he's going to sponsor for his birthday. And it's going to be pretty cool because Connor and I are going to have to guess the answers to the questions that he came up with. And the more questions that we get right, the higher the gift card's value is going to be. So Connor and I, as a team, we're going to come up with the answers to that. Obviously, we're all family, so we obviously know each other before this podcast and everything. But it's going to be life questions, I assume, about Eric, honoring his birthday.
Yeah, it'll be like a get to know me kind of thing.
Yeah. So we did the Q&A episode to get you guys familiar with everybody, but this is going to be specifically about Eric for his birthday. And then when Nate and Connor's birthdays come up, they can choose to do either something similar, or it's all up to them what they decide to do for their birthday celebration thing on Clutch Crew Sports. So maybe I'll do one too. So
I mean, by the time we get to July.
Yeah.
When's Nate's birthday again?
It's sometime in May, I want to say.
Okay, so I'll be next then.
Yeah, you're gonna be next
because my birthday is April 23rd. So,
and honestly, if I had thought of this idea, because we already passed my birthday, we recorded an episode in July. I think it was on my actual birthday, or maybe it was the day before or after, but I know it was really close to it. But I wasn't thinking about it really, so it'll be something for my next birthday. But so. Obviously, we had a crazy wildcard weekend. I led the way with predictions getting right. 3 of my 4 predictions came true. Everybody else got 1 right, I believe.
Eric got 2 right.
Or Eric got 2. No, he only got 1.
Oh no, that's right, because he picked Philadelphia. That's right.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Houston over Buffalo. That was
and then Nate and I got Seattle over Philadelphia.
Yeah. So basically, I was 1 away from my bracket still being intact, but when one loss happens in a bracket like this, everything gets shuffled around. But my AFC is still perfect, so that's why I kept my predictions the same for the AFC. The NFC has different matchups, but regarding the games that happened, I really want to talk mainly about a trend between all 4 games instead of each specific game. And I've got the tweet here on the screen that I want to talk about. It's the first tweet that you read. The other ones, one of them didn't even make sense because it got rolled back. I kind of just tweeted in the moment down there. Dalvin Cook just cost the Vikings the win because he fumbled. It looked like he fumbled it, and then it got scooped and scored for a touchdown at the end of the game. And I thought the Saints were going to win, but his knee was clearly down, and they reversed the call. Saints had another touchdown taken back where it was something like that happened too. So they did get a little bit unlucky. And then obviously the questionable pass interference call at the end too is, I know they're still thinking about that, but
might be a discussion on that later.
Yeah, we can have a discussion on that too. I don't even know how Eric feels on that, but I know how myself and Connor feel. But
also,
yeah,
with the Houston Buffalo game, I don't know if Eric's with me on this, but like I think I know what where I'm going. You think I know where I'm going?
Oh
with this,
yeah,
we
can, down.
Yeah. So we can. I don't know if you want to do that too, but
we can.
Yeah.
I always like doing the philosophy debates for this sort of stuff because it's usually where we disagree on the most. Same thing in the Seattle Philly game, but all right. So basically, back to my original point here, and I tweeted my original tweet there, and then I like subtweeted it again when I saw another terrible instance of it. But clock management by head coaches have gotten so bad this season, and it seems to be getting worse. And you would have thought in the playoffs are going to have the best teams and the best coaches, and they make the right decisions. And I'm not even talking about like decisions between going for it or kicking the field goal. Like those are debatable. I recognize, even though I have my opinions, those are debatable instances where the coach has a certain philosophy, whether he's aggressive or conservative. You can go either way on that. That's not my point here. My point is about clock management and going to the end of halves and end of games with timeouts in your pocket. And it just doesn't make sense. So the first one was in reference to Sean McDermott from Buffalo in that first game. And I think he's a great head coach. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's in the Coach of the Year discussion, but his clock management at the end of the first half, I thought was really bad because Buffalo was driving and obviously they had to work the 2-minute offense, but they wasted so much time getting the plays, and then they decided to like waste a bunch of time instead of calling a timeout when they had a timeout. And then by the time the play finally ended, there was only like 8 seconds left, and they kicked a field goal, and they had like a timeout in their pocket. And I was just like, what are you doing? You're wasting so much time when you have a timeout to use. You call the timeout, then take the shot to the end zone, and you go from there. Obviously, you cannot take a sack, so you're going to throw the ball out quicker. Your odds of getting the touchdown are going to be smaller because of that, but at least try. And instead, you basically just let the clock wind down all the way and then run a play, but then the play gets mismanaged because you're kind of confused and everything. I just don't know why they did it. And then with Sean Payton, it was bad too at the end of the half because the end of the first half was good. They just missed the field goal. But in the second half, I was like, what are you doing? And then they got a penalty because they were trying to like run up and like spike it to save time when they had like 2 or 3 timeouts. I'm like, just use a timeout here. Just use it now. And the time, like using timeouts, coaches needing to use timeouts versus not use timeouts. The whole clock management thing to me is irritating because it's like, you think it would be kind of obvious, if you're trying to score a touchdown and you have a couple timeouts and there's like 30 seconds left, you don't waste time to go and spike it if you've got these timeouts because you need all the time you can get. I just thought it was bad. I thought it cost Buffalo points potentially in that game, and nobody really talked about it. But to me, that stood out from basically every game. I should have written every one of them down, but if I were to go back and watch those games, I bet you I could find every single coach and every single team did something wrong. Houston did it too. I forget exactly what it was, but I remember thinking, I probably tweeted about it. Houston messed up on a clock management situation. I'm like, golly, nobody's talking about it, but it's so obvious to me that these are wrong. Like I said, this isn't really a debatable thing with the philosophy of being conservative or aggressive. But to me, I watch these games and I'm like, what are the coaches doing? And Doug Marrone did it too. There's so many times. Another thing is just wasting the Titans and Patriots. Like the Titans, when sometimes when maybe not that game, but maybe there's another game where a team was up by a lot, and instead of taking snaps in the fourth quarter with like 5 seconds left or under, when they're trying to kill the clock, they snap it with like 17, 18 seconds. I'm like, just run all the clock that you can down. I think Buffalo did that too. It's like when you're trying to just kill the clock in these games in the fourth quarter, you always got to let the clock run down to snap it, but you leave so much time left for the game. It's like you could have wasted so many more minutes if you had been smart with the time when you snap the ball. That's another one I didn't think about earlier, but just all these clock management situations really bothered me. Kind of like a rant going on here, but because to me it's like an obvious thing you should be able to do, and I feel like people agree. I mean, I only got 1 like on that, but somebody commented probably like, yeah, you're right. So I feel like people, when they see it, they're probably like, yeah, I agree with this, but people probably just gloss over it. But to me, I can't gloss over it. Like, it stands out to me. I don't know why, but that's where I'm feeling from these games. That was my biggest takeaway. That was like a negative takeaway. The positive takeaway, I guess, they were all fun games to watch, but yeah. So that's all I wanted to talk about from the games. But I'll let you guys share your thoughts maybe on this subject or any other subjects or themes you saw with the games, and specifically the games that you guys did watch, because I know you guys didn't watch all of them, but I got my rant with it.
Get it all the way first, man.
Yeah.
Connor, you go ahead.
Okay. I probably wasn't paying as close attention because, unfortunately, when I was watching half of these games, I was on a plane watching them with no sound because, like, I couldn't plug my Apple headphones into the TVs on them. But, more so what I saw was just like, I guess I want to say it's to do with like the balance between having a good like offense and defense, because I think the Bills were probably the best example of this, and really, I think the Patriots could be too of this example. Yeah. Is that, when two teams that have like really good defenses, I think the Bills were like the third best defense this year, and the Patriots were obviously the number 1 defense this year. And I know the Steelers had this problem too. They had the number 4 defense this year. And so it's one of those situations where a really good defense can only take you so far if you're not putting up points on the board, because the Bills had so many missed opportunities in that game. Because I know there was the whole issue at the start of the second half with the whole kickoff thing, and should it have been a touchdown or a touchback? There was that call, which in my opinion, it should have been a touchdown, but because the Bills actually got bit on that a couple of years ago when their guy didn't down it. And then the Jets went down and got a touchdown out of it. So I don't understand the whole where the Houston guy quote gave himself up or something. So that's why it was a touchback.
They've changed that. I think they've changed that rule a little bit. I think in the old days they would have considered that a touchdown, but I think now they've gotten to the point where they changed that, where you can do that little hand signal thing. Obviously we know what his intent was, but I think everybody's intent is the same on that play. But he should have needed. I don't know why he didn't. That was stupid.
Yeah, that's but yeah, there was that, and then there was the whole. There was a couple other questionable calls in that game, but the more so thing about the Bills is that they just had so many opportunities where they got down in the red zone, and had they even just turned one of those into a touchdown instead of being a field goal, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion about them. It would just be oh yeah, the Bills won. There wouldn't be any discussion on how close the game was, and the fact that Deshaun Watson somehow broke out of that sack at the end of the game. I still don't know how he did that, but but it's just a good defense can only take you so far, because eventually, if you're not putting up points, eventually the defense is going to crack. And it showed with the Steelers, it showed with the Bills, and it showed with the Patriots. Their defense held up a little bit better than Buffalo's did towards the end of the game, because at the end of the day, when it came to their defense, it was only a 1-point game because Tennessee got that pick six at the end of the game. So, which they should have had 2 actually, because Logan Ryan dropped the first pick 6, but So yeah, and then I know I also want to touch on on the New England Tennessee game, how there's all these people that were talking about, oh, is this Tom Brady's last game? It's the end of the dynasty. Oh, his last pass as a Patriot is it going to be a pick six? I mean, bad news for everybody here, who's not a Patriots fan, but Tom Brady's coming back to the Patriots. I don't care what anyone says. He's going back.
Is this going to be a lock on the lock board?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm willing to lock that.
I think that qualifies because that's not a obvious no duh statement. There's a lot of people that think he's not going to come back. So I qualify. That's a fair one for the lock.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I see no reason as to why he's not coming back, because it's one of those things that I feel like it's more of a respect thing than anything, because there's some of these players Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, which, I mean, I still don't know about Phillip Rivers because the organization's still kind of young and he says he's not done, but especially Tom Brady, he's earned the right to retire as a New England Patriot. So, and if they end up shipping him off somewhere, I feel like New England's going to be regretting that forever if they do that. So I think in their mind, it's he deserves to be here. He deserves to retire as a New England Patriot. That doesn't mean they're going to extend him another 5 years or whatever some people might think. But, at least a 1 or 2 year contract, maybe. Probably a 2-year deal, it would be my guess. A low end 2-year deal, since he's always talked about wanting to play till he's 45. And I mean, I don't think Belichick's going anywhere, because you could see at the end of that game, I think it was Tony Romo who also said it. You just see the look in his face. He did not want to, he didn't want to retire. The look on his face, the disappointment, the frustration, he's got something in his mind. He wants to come back and prove that he can still do it. Because there was all this talk about him being washed up and, he had an off year. He didn't make the Pro Bowl for the first time in about 11 seasons, I think it was, this season. I think, obviously he didn't go he didn't go most of the time, but, he at least got voted onto the team.
Yeah.
So I think he still thinks he has some left in the tank. And again, it's just frustration can do a lot to the motivation of a player. If they had made it to the conference championship and then got eliminated by Baltimore, Kansas City, then okay, maybe he'd consider retirement more, and because it was going to be a road game and they was a really good team and blah 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 blah. If they played their hearts out, if they played a really good game and just came up short, then fine. But to be at your home stadium in front of the home crowd, possibly your last home game ever as a New England Patriot, and to go out to a team, the 6th seed, I know Tennessee's probably a little bit better than their 9-7 record, but still a 9-7 team. And to go out in a game losing 20-13, where basically your mistake sealed the game for the other team, there's no way he's going to want to go out and be remembered like that. So Tom Brady's coming back to the New England Patriots. And so I really only got a good glimpse of the AFC games. So I'll let Eric talk now, because I know he watched the NFC games a lot more than I did.
Yeah, I watched the Seahawks-Eagles game, most of that. And after Carson Wentz went out, it just really was not a very eventful game. While I didn't see I only saw some highlights from the Saints-Vikings game, but I think that game was better. Watching the Seahawks-Eagles game was probably the least entertaining out of the 4 of them. But even still, it had a neat ending, because Josh McCown was hampered with a hamstring injury, but still trying to, because he was the only quarterback they had left, so he was still trying to lead the team.
No Nick Foles this time.
Yeah,
well, they could have played Greg Ward, because he was a college quarterback at Houston.
They said he would have had to have gone in there, but I mean, how many reps has he taken at quarterback?
Yeah, I know. I know he was good at Houston, though, man. I watched him beat USF a couple times. I know he's got talent, but yeah, it's not ideal to have your wide receiver play QB.
but it would have been neat if they had been able to get that touchdown on that last drive and get the 2-point conversion and send it to overtime. That would have been pretty cool. But unfortunately, they were just a little bit short. But I guess what I'll address of what hasn't mainly been covered yet, just with the results before we go to the next part, is my opinion on the offensive pass interference on Minnesota's final play that won it for him. Zach and Connor haven't heard my thoughts on it yet since I was at work when it happened, but and this is coming from somebody who wanted the Saints to win the game. I personally really didn't think it was that bad. I mean, did he like stick his hands out a little bit? Sure, but he didn't really like shove him off of him. Like they were kind of hand-to-hand fighting, and he moved his hands to get the hands out and then get the ball. It wasn't like the one that cost the Saints last year in the Rams game where the Rams player like bulldozed the receiver going out of bounds. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I will say the refs probably should have reviewed it, just like they should have reviewed the one in the Seahawks 49ers game in the final week of the season. Like, I guess for me, I know we've kind of talked about this ad nauseum on this podcast, but like, I just don't understand like what the point is of having pass interference be challengeable if the refs are never going to even review it
or overturn it.
Yeah. But I mean, the one, especially like in the Seattle-San Francisco game of Week 17, like that one was so obvious. Like this one, I think is a little more debatable on whether it would be pass interference or not, and so that's why I'm more so like okay with that one being a no call. But they still, to me, should have at least looked at it and made sure, like, okay, yeah, it stands, like, because they didn't, they just saw it in live speed and then were like, oh, that's it, that's the game. Like,
what makes it look kind of bad is because there's been former refs that have said that they believe it was pass interference. So like that, it's never a bad look when you have former officials. I mean, and it's definitely nowhere near as obvious as like the one the year before. But when you have a lot like there's people on both sides, but the fact that there's former refs saying that they would call it pass interference, like I know it doesn't make Saints fans any happier, but
new petition starting now.
Yeah. I mean, so that was my take on it. I just didn't think it was egregious enough to call it. I mean, if you're going by like every little technicality of everything, yes, it probably would be. But really, just like with like offensive lineman holding penalties, I mean, you could call pass interference on like almost every single play, like because there's almost always going to be like some kind of contact, especially if it's any ball that's thrown like down the field, like maybe not on like a screen pass or slant or drag route perhaps, but any ball that's thrown like more than 20 yards down the field, like, or if it's like lobbed up in the air, that was like a close to the goal line situation, but if it's like lobbed up in the air and it's going to be like a 50-50 ball, there's always going to be contact. So you have to differ like what's egregious enough to be pass interference and what isn't. And to me, that one just wasn't egregious enough to call it. But at the same time, if they had called it, I wouldn't say like, oh, they should have overturned it, because yes, he did put his hands out. So like, it's really one that could have gone either way. So like, regardless of how they had called it, like I would have been fine with it either way. But I don't know, man. Zach, I know you mentioned to me before, or you put it in our group chat, that the rule, I mean, obviously the rule sucked, but you think they're going to take it away next year?
Well, it's when they initiated the rule, it was only for this year. So it was that way to begin with. And then it's one of those, we're going to experiment with it this year.
Trial by error kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. So it was only set in stone for this year. And then if they liked it, then they would keep it in. But yeah, it's not from how it's been used. There's no way they're going to re-up it. So
it'll definitely be, it'll be definitely taken out. And I guess my last comment before we go to the next segment, man, like listening to Booger McFarland just sucks. It's like, Zach, I know Chris Collinsworth is your least favorite, and I know like we all don't like Joe Buck, but like, my God, dude,
I don't like Chris Collinsworth either.
Like listening to him, like, and towards the end of the game when it was 3rd and 10, and he said the Bills should run a draw play and then spike it. It's like, dude, that was the
I remember that. Like I think I told you about that. He was like, it was like 3rd and 8. He was like, run a draw play, just to get a couple of yards and then spike it. Well, then you've lost your downs.
Come on, man. Like, and then, I mean, not to, make like I know we keep this pretty family friendly on here, but that I posted a tweet about it. He said at one point, he said, yeah, he's a slippery guy and he's coming inside. I was just like, oh no, dude, that sounded like, I know there's things in sports that sound dirty, but they're not all the time. But that one was, usually they just say, oh, penetration or something. But like, this was like using the word like slippery and all. Whoa.
Well, he states the obvious too. That's what most people find.
That's what all the memes are.
All the memes are him. Yeah, so he's funny though.
Yeah, like the other funny one too was when let's see, what was the score at the time it happened? Oh, it was I think something about like oh my gosh, why am I having such a brain fart here? Somebody scored and went like 17-16, and so then he was like, oh yeah, because
it was the 2-point conversion thing.
And he was like, yeah, man, I'm telling you, this is what they got to do right here. They got to go for 2, because if they go for 2, it'll make it a 3-point game. And that'll mean the other team will have to kick a field goal just to tie it. I'm like, no, obviously, dude. Like, come on, man. Oh God, dude, he sucks so.
Yeah, bad. It's like he thinks he's like brilliant with saying some of this stuff. He thinks that he thinks that like, oh, I'm the first one to think of this. Like,
yeah.
Booger is good for the memes. I'll say that.
Well, I posted one the other day, but I guess on an NFL memes thing. But I guess I waited too late because people were like, "Oh, that was lame." But it was when the Seahawks beat the Eagles. So I was like, I said, "Well, Joe, since the Seahawks won the game, they will be going on to face the Packers next week. But if the Eagles had won, they would be going on to face the Packers next week." But I got like no reaction on it. I was like, oh man, I was hoping. I saw the clip came out. I'm like, ooh, it's like just came out. Let me do this, and it was a fail. But well, I tried.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I wanted to mention quickly before this is going back to the pass interference call is that. So, because you talk about like, you wanted them to review it, but my question is, I don't know, I haven't read about this as closely as maybe you guys have, but so that was a scoring play and all touchdowns are automatically reviewed. So wouldn't they have gone back and replay and looked at it right then and there without needing to like officially say, oh, we're reviewing this for pass interference? Because all scoring plays are reviewed.
I think they might have, but. Yeah.
Well, so usually if there's something that's controversial, like,
well, no, it's in the rule book that they do always do it no matter what.
They do it no matter what, but considering how quickly that play happened versus when the team started shaking hands and everything, like if they had reviewed it for how long they take the normal reviews, like it would have been a minute or two.
Yeah.
They just once it happened, like the whole thing was over with just like that. So it was like a no-brainer touchdown review. So
okay, that's what I just wanted to ask that.
Okay, yeah, good question. But we will get started now on the birthday special part of this episode. I'll let Eric take it away, and then once we're done with that, we'll go back to football. So
yeah, guys. So here's this is going to be the details of the giveaway. So anybody that listens to this, you can enter. Basically, in order to enter, I will be sending out a tweet. So, like by the time this episode is live, there will be a tweet out. So, at Clutch Crew Sport on Twitter. And so, basically, to enter into the giveaway, all you have to do is be following us on Twitter, and which I will be able to see that, and then show proof that you are a subscriber on either YouTube, iTunes, Anchor, or Spotify, one of those 4 major platforms. So show proof of that. And then on the tweet that I post out, all you have to do is, comment that you're entering and retweet so that your followers can see it and enter. Mm-hmm. So you will have until Wednesday night at midnight Eastern time to do so. But also the other factor of the giveaway was Zach mentioned about him and Connor helping you guys out. So I will be giving away a GameStop gift card, but the amount of the gift card will be determined by how well they do on this trivia about some things in my life.
No pressure.
No pressure, Zach. No pressure.
We're gonna do the best we can for you guys. Make Eric pay.
Yeah, they have not seen the questions.
No, we haven't.
It's not going to be like on these like talk shows where they like.
Yeah.
They all know the answers beforehand, or even if they don't, then they'll be like, well, everyone gets a prize anyway. Like, the dollar amount will be determined based on what they do. So it's going to start out at
you do get a prize, just lower dollar value.
Yeah. So the prize won't be as good. But yeah, it won't be like, oh, you still get the full value even if they get them wrong. So it's going to start out at $10, and I'm going to do 5 questions. And for every question they get right, I will up the gift card value by $5. And I will do this up to $25. So they only have to get 3 right to get the full amount. So I tried to make them like some that I feel like they might know, some that might be a little harder. I had to try to balance it because I didn't want to do like ones that they definitely wouldn't know, or ones that would be like if I asked like who my favorite NFL team is, like obviously they're going to know that. So
I'm thinking it's probably the New England Patriots.
Man, Connor, what a failure. Have you learned nothing? All right, now it's time for my rant. That would be Nate, Connor, not me. Okay. So the questions will be multiple choice. So we just designed this segment for the podcasters on their birthday to be able to do what they want. So I picked this to do a giveaway for the fans. And then I also did it so that, for any new listeners or people that don't know me personally, like this will give you kind of a chance to learn a little bit about me. So some of it's like past things in my life or things I like or whatever. So with that being said, I will go into the first question. So the first question actually relates to our Q&A episode that we did. So I'm going to see if Connor and Zach remember this.
Interesting.
So in track and field, when I ran track and field in high school, which event was I a part of on my high school state championship team?
Oh shit!
Was it A? Oh, we got a curse word, folks. Sorry, you took it. So was it A, the 4x400 meter relay? Was it B, the 4x800 meter relay? Was it C, the individual 1 mile run, or D, the individual 2 mile run?
Okay, I want to say it was either the individual 1 mile or individual 2 mile, Zach.
I agree because the 4x400 and 800, those were for when he won state, not his first one.
And one also, I remember him telling the story about how the one kid from the other school that he was trying to beat, which if you were in a 4x400 or 4x800, and you're not racing on the track with a bunch of other people. You're racing on the track with some other people, but he was on the track with a bunch of other people.
Yes, I agree. And so now it comes down to 1 mile or 2 mile. I totally agree with you there. I'm thinking 2 mile, but just because it's longer, but that doesn't seem like a normal type of race. I feel like 1 mile would be a standard. So I'm torn between that. What do you think?
Trying to think what my gut says. Is it wrong if I went to the YouTube video and went to check that right now?
It'd probably take you a minute to find that. That was a long episode.
Yeah.
I'd probably have to say probably the 1 mile, because I think you're right. Yeah. That sounds like more of an event than the 2 mile. So
all right, that'll be our final answer.
Okay, individual 1 mile.
Yeah.
Okay, well, unfortunately, Zach, you actually kind of said it earlier but didn't realize it. It was actually the 4x800 meter relay, because I said for the state championship, not the.
I got the question wrong. Oh, okay.
I didn't realize how I guess that was inadvertently a trick question, because I did win, but it wasn't the 1 mile though. I did win the individual 2 mile, but that was in districts, which is the early. That's the wild card round of the playoffs equivalent. Like, but
Mm.
but for state, I was involved.
Now I remember that now. It's the same event.
Because you're like, he won that team with the one thing with the state, and I'm thinking, oh man, he just like said the answer but didn't realize it.
No, I totally didn't, because I thought it was a longer race, so I didn't. Or maybe it's, I don't know how meters.
But even if it was the district one, it still would have been wrong because it was the 2 mile, not the 1 mile. But yeah, I like y'all. Like, totally wrong. I like the way y'all work together though. Like that was. I enjoyed that
too.
All right, this one I think Zach should know this.
Oh God,
Connor might not know as.
Pressure's on. You put pressure on me, man. No,
sorry, man. I can't.
I know.
Connor might know this too, but I feel like if anyone for sure will know it will be you. But let's see. So, after my high school days, I played in a band with some buddies of mine called Operatio.
Yes.
Which instrument did I play?
I know.
I know this. I know.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if this.
You don't even need bass guitar.
Yeah, bass guitar.
Bass guitar. Okay. I didn't know if y'all would remember specifically which guitar it was, so I threw some guitar options in there. So, guys, the gift card is up to $15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So
get us back on our feet.
Yeah. So now getting into also more of my adult life, I've worked a few different jobs. So in my life, which of these jobs have I not had? Okay. So remember the keyword not had. Okay. A, direct sales. B, custodian. C, cashier at a pilot shop store. Or D, office clerk.
I know it. It's office clerk. It's office.
Is that a final answer?
Final answer. Right. Office clerk.
That is correct.
Yay!
Office clerk. I didn't know if the pilot shop one would throw you off because
I knew you told me that. So one time we were talking with Al, and one time in a PlayStation party, you told us about one of your experiences there. So I knew that. And obviously, I knew custodian and direct sales were.
Yeah.
I knew direct sales would for sure be the easy one. I didn't know if y'all knew that I did the custodian or the pilot shop.
Yeah.
So, and then I had to think of I was like, what would be a random, like, believable job that I haven't done?
Yeah,
the hardest part with that one was
I knew
the wrong answer.
Yeah, I knew the custodian and the direct sales, but it was between the other two. I was like, oh, geez, I don't know.
Awesome, guys. So the gift card is now up to $20. So if they answer one of the last two right, we'll get $25. So, okay. So next, this is more just a personal about me thing. So in the superhero comic book world, all that sci-fi, all that type stuff, who is my favorite villain?
Oh boy.
Is it A, the Joker, B, Thanos, C, Darth Vader, or D, Magneto?
Wait, hold on. What was C again?
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
Okay.
So we got hold on. So we got
Joker,
Darth Vader,
Thanos, Darth Vader, and Magneto.
Ooh.
I want to say
it's definitely not Darth Vader, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's talked about Star Wars not really being his favorite. So
yeah, I want to say it's Magneto.
I'm between that and Joker because I know he's talked about like really liking Joker. Yeah. Magneto would be, to me, that would be like a surprise one because I don't think he's ever really talked about him to me. Yeah. So that would be like almost a surprise. But to me, I think it's Joker. But I don't know. I definitely don't think it's Thanos either. So we can cross that off.
I'm definitely between Magneto and Joker right now.
My gut says Joker, though, still.
Okay, well, we'll go with Zach's gut. So we'll go.
Right. Final answer, Joker.
And that is correct.
Okay.
Man, this has been a way more interactive segment than I thought it would be. So I'm enjoying that. So yeah. I like X-Men somewhat, but yeah, Joker is my favorite because I like that he doesn't have powers that he.
Yeah.
It's all in his head.
That's why Batman's my favorite superhero.
And yeah, so yeah, that's See, I almost said favorite superhero, but I'm torn between Batman, Iron Man, and Spider-Man. They're my three favorites. And it's hard to specifically say which one I like the best. So I didn't do that one, but Joker is easily by far and away my favorite villain. So that's why I did that one instead. So All right. So last one.
Congratulations, guys.
We got the gift card to the max, though.
Whether they get this one right or wrong, the gift card will be $25. I was kind of hoping I'd get it wrong, so it'd only be 10. I'm just kidding. I should have made the questions harder. Dang it. All right. So last question. This is a food question.
Okay.
So out of all the like national pizza chains, which one is my favorite? Is it A, Pizza Hut, B, Domino's, C, Papa John's, or D, Little Caesars?
Oh, I know it's not Papa John's because we share that in common, so I can cross that off.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Papa John's either.
I will interfere. I haven't intervened in the other questions, but I will intervene in this one because I don't know if y'all like will know this, but if either of y'all had said Papa John's as final answer, like we would be like uncousined, like.
We both knew that it wasn't Papa John's.
Yeah. So when we all both like eliminated that one, I'm like, okay, I am going to butt in and just say that real quick. So
you're good.
Yeah. So
we'll discuss
Hut, Domino's,
this.
Pizza Hut, Domino's, or Little Caesars. I'll let y'all continue.
So Connor? What's your lean to?
I'm leaning towards Domino's, I want to say, because I'm trying to remember. Like, I feel like there's some story that Eric's told me before involving Domino's. I don't know if that's why it would like make it his favorite place, or maybe he just went there for this time. But I feel like there was some story he told involving Domino's.
Okay. But because I'm leaning Pizza Hut. Yeah, Little Caesars. Yeah. I don't think. Yeah.
Pizza Hut would be my second choice.
Yeah. I think it's Pizza Hut though, because he always talked with Alan about going to Pizza Hut on his birthday and stuff. I've never really heard him talk about Domino's. I guess if you might know that he talked about a Domino's story, but I guess we can answer this one differently though, right? Since like we've already got the prize.
I guess out. I will, since the $25 is locked, I will allow this
because we each
want to give a separate answer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll say Domino's and Zach will say Pizza Hut.
Okay, so final answers are locked, and Zach was right. It is Pizza Hut. So I do like Domino's too, though, but Pizza Hut, I like all their different like crust options and stuff. Like I just. Mm-hmm. The Domino's, Domino's crust is good, but I like having all the options with Pizza Hut. So that's one I haven't talked about a whole lot. So I kind of put that one last because I felt like if there was any one that y'all like might get wrong, that would probably be it. So that's why I did that one last. But so Pizza Hut is it. So Connor, I'm curious what the Domino's story was. When you said that, I was like, I wasn't going to intervene, but I was like, I don't know. I don't remember telling him a story about Domino's, but if I did, I wonder what it was about.
I feel like it was some story with you and Alan, like doing something. Like I don't know, or maybe
I always heard the birthday stories with Alan at Pizza Hut. That's what I heard.
Yeah, Alan has like for like.
But this wasn't like a birthday story.
Okay.
I think it was just like they went out or something, and maybe it wasn't Alan. It might have been one of your other friends. That was kind of like it was like maybe not Jess, like either Jesse or someone else who was like, let's go get Domino's or something. And you were just like, no, like we got to go home or whatever, and like you had car troubles or something. I don't know.
That rings a little bit familiar to me. I don't know if it's specifically Domino's, but maybe Subway or something. I don't know. That does sound a little bit familiar, actually. But
and like Jesse might have been drunk or something. I don't know.
Jesse been called out.
Wow, man! This is fun, man. Like
I don't know, man.
Like I kind of want to make one of these, even though it's not my birthday for a while. Like this is kind of fun to do this.
I enjoyed this, man. I did not expect y'all's interaction to be like so good, like when trying to like figure out the answers and stuff, especially like on that first one with the track thing. Like
the track one we really had to work together on.
They got 4 out of 5 right, so the winning viewer will get a $25 GameStop gift card. So
wow,
yeah, so
that's great.
So whoever wins you can thank Zach and Connor for getting a $25 card instead of a $10 card. So,
y'all welcome.
Connor, go ahead say you're welcome. Yeah.
So, when at home you have your list of which one of us you like the best, and you have your tier rankings. I hope that puts Zach and I a little bit higher in your tier rankings.
Awesome, man. Good stuff.
And Eric is sponsoring this. Like he gave his money up for donation here. So like, we
sorry,
all
Nate.
Contributed. Yeah, Nate's the odd one out now. Everybody hates Nate. But well, I mean, if you were going by his NFL picks,
if it was going to be like just like Zach, if it was just going to be like you and Nate, I probably wouldn't have done this. Because I mean, obviously, like you and Nate are like, obviously I'm friends with Nate, but he doesn't know about, obviously, like with me being cousins with y'all, like y'all, we've all known each other like our whole lives, whereas like Nate I've known sparingly for a few months, so it would have been a lot more unfair like if Nate had tried to figure out these answers. So
and Nate would have had no clue, or you would have had to really dumb down the questions for him, I think.
So Zach, I was like, I'm not gonna. So, but then when Zach told me that Connor was going to be in it this episode, that Connor was available. I was like, let me do like a little family life trivia about me and see what they know. So then that was kind of what led to that.
Yeah.
So
I might have to do that,
man. I
might have to do that if since my birthday's next, if y'all two are going to be in it, I might have to do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun, man. Like
bring it on.
This was fun, I gotta say. But really, it was only that. I think it was the second question about where you worked. That was the one I knew right, or third. That was the one I knew right away, and I figured Connor might not, so that's why.
Yeah, well, that was the one that I was kind of like I said, I had it down to 2, but like I wasn't sure between those two, and then obviously the bass guitar was the one that you and I both.
Yeah, we both.
Yeah. We were like, we don't even need choices for this one.
Yeah, and then the last one, the Pizza Hut one, that was just like. I wasn't as confident on that one, and same with the Joker too. I wasn't as confident on that one either. But all in all, good stuff, man. Happy birthday, also.
Yeah,
yes, sir. Happy birthday. 32.
Got to be 32 years old, man. That's
10 years older than me.
One step closer to 40.
Come on, man. You just turned 30 like 2 years ago. Don't be thinking about that.
I know, man. I'm just saying, man. Like my 20s are over. Like in my 30s now. Like it's crazy to think about it, man. It's like I remember when I was y'all's age, and like now I'm seeing like y'all in college, or like people that I knew like when they were like little kids or like in high school now, and I'm just like, oh man, like what am I doing?
Yeah.
Where has the time gone? Like it's
also crazy. Yeah, and me, Connor, and I saw this on Twitter, but like technically we've lived through 4 decades. I'm not even 21, and I've lived through 4 decades, which I think is pretty interesting. Connor's 21, but
because we lived through the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and now the 2020s.
Yeah. So
I'm in 5 decades. So
because Eric was born in '88, so he was born in the '80s.
So yeah, I'm an '80s baby, but I don't remember any of
it. I've lived through 4 decades, but 2 of them combined are less than a year. So for me, anyways.
I certainly don't remember the 90s. So
yeah. So, but we'll get back to football now. That's what we were gonna plan on doing, having that as like a little break in between the football action and our normal sports talk. So that was fun, Eric. Thanks for sponsoring that, and thanks for coming up with those questions.
I'll look forward to the giveaway. So make sure, like, when you enter, just follow us on Twitter, one of our viewership sites, either YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, or iTunes, and retweet the tweet I post, and you'll be entered. So,
question,
Zach, I think you said that that when you do your next that I won't be in the next episode, but that everybody that's entered will be put into like a drawing or on a spin the wheel or something, and you'll present that live.
We'll pick the winner live. Yeah, no bribing us from in the back, anything like that.
Yeah, we're not gonna like pick a winner and then just post a tweet and be like, oh, this is the winner. Like I always think that's kind of BS when people like do that or like
The draft NBA draft lottery, man. That's got real conspiracy theories written all over it because they don't show it live.
Yeah.
But my little question though was if Connor and I retweet it, are we eligible?
No, Clutch Crew Sports podcasters are not eligible.
I did try. Yo, I'll retweet it, obviously, but
you can retweet it, but yeah, you're not. Eligible.
I had to try, Connor. I had to try.
No, Eric. Why you gotta be lame, Eric? Like, come on.
All right. Well, back to football now. So we're gonna talk about the divisional rounds here briefly, and then that'll wrap up this episode. But Minnesota at San Francisco will be our first game. All three of us picking San Francisco. Tennessee at Baltimore. I'm the lone wolf picking Tennessee. I'm going to stick with my pick from last week that they would make it here and win this game. Houston at Kansas City. We've all got Kansas City, and then Seattle at Green Bay. Eric taking Green Bay. Connor and I taking Seattle. I have not spoken to Nate yet, so I don't know what his picks are going to be, but I did put out a poll on Twitter, and it didn't get as much actually, yeah, this one did get a lot of votes on it. But so I picked most likely upset for this next week's game, and it got 75 votes, which for me in a Twitter poll is pretty good. That might be my most voted on poll I've ever done. But Seahawks at Packers got, obviously it won 57% of the vote, and then everything else is pretty tight at around 12 to 16%. And this was a little bit reflected in our picks because Connor and I picked the Seahawks to beat the Packers, so we agreed with this. But looking at these games, I can realistically pick 3 upsets, but in my gut, I'm only going to pick 2 because I still think the Titans are the only type of team that can beat the Ravens. I think it's like their style of play, the way that they are, like the running attack to chew up time of possession, being able to win on the road and not be bothered. It seems like they're the kind of team that has like no pressure, like that can be the spoiler team. And the Ravens are like so hyped up, man. And they haven't played in like 3 weeks, sitting up that last week and the bye week. Are they going to be a little bit rusty from all that time off? I know it's nice to have a bye week to get that rest, but with the other week too, I mean, it seems like could be a little bit of rest versus rust, and the Titans are coming in hot, just beating the Patriots, ending that dynasty like potentially. So they probably are on top of the world right now. I know you can say that they're due for a letdown, but I think Vrabel is going to have his team ready and ready to go. And so that's the one that I think can happen. Seahawks at Packers, I think that can obviously happen because Russell Wilson is amazing. The stuff he's doing this with a pretty bad offensive line, in my opinion. His team isn't as great as a lot of other playoff teams, but I fully trust him. And Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs hasn't always been that great. I mean, they've only been to 1 Super Bowl, and they don't have the greatest home field record in the playoffs as you might think. So they're susceptible for a loss. And then the 49ers inexperience, I think, could make them susceptible to a loss. The only one I really have a hard time picking is the one that got the least percent here with Texans over Chiefs. Just because I think the Texans are all Deshaun Watson. I think their team is really bad. Not really bad other than him, but, I mean, I saw a bunch of drops, and their offensive line was putrid in that game. So the Chiefs have so much more weapons. I actually think Deshaun Watson's right now a better quarterback than Mahomes is at this point in the season, but with all the weapons the Chiefs have, the home field advantage there in Arrowhead, it's going to be a tough environment. It's going to be all Chiefs fans screaming and stuff. That's the one I see least likely to happen, but those are my thoughts on them. I wonder what you guys think, if you voted in this poll or not, and what you guys would rank the upset likely ability.
Well, I was saying I voted in the poll.
Okay.
I voted Seahawks over Packers, clearly. I mean, I would have to go with, like, I'm in agreement with you that I think the Texans over Chiefs is, like, probably the least likely upset, because going into Arrowhead and the fact that they almost, like, just barely beat the Bills, too, and the fact that, like, Deshaun Watson, like, honestly should not have gotten out of that sack. I don't know how that happened.
Well, dude, I will say he did that like 10 times against the Jaguars this season. Like that, I wasn't surprised when I saw it, to be honest with you. I was surprised he didn't do it more, but that was pretty crazy.
Yeah,
like,
because like normally, like getting out of a sack, like that's kind of fine and all well and fine. But like the fact that he like basically got sandwiched in between two guys and like still managed to stay
crazy,
up, I was
man. I don't know how he does it, but the fact that I've seen him do it before, I wasn't as surprised. But
yeah,
he is pretty crazy.
But yeah, I mean, I think that could happen. Or I think that won't happen for sure.
Yeah.
And then I'm in disagreement about the Titans over the Ravens. Like, I think that the Ravens are just because, in my opinion, the Patriots just weren't that good. Like, I think that was more of Mike Vrabel knowing Bill Belichick and the fact that the Patriots just weren't that good just to begin with. I mean, especially since, we'd always seen it in the past where New England, if they would finish 12-4 or like 13-3, those 3 or 4 losses always came at the beginning of the year. Whereas this time, and like they got better as the season went on. Whereas this time it was kind of the opposite. They started 8-0 and then finished 4-4. So, which I mean, obviously those first 8 opponents were also like really not very good teams to begin with anyway. So, like other than Buffalo, none of those 8 teams finished with a winning record. So, but yeah, so I think the Vikings over 49ers, I think it could happen. I mean, it's an interesting scenario. It depends on really the Vikings need to find their offense for sure, because their defense, I mean, that's not the strength of San Francisco. Like going back to what I said earlier about the defense-offense balance, they found that balance because they have a really good defense, and their offense is good enough to put up the points to where the defense doesn't have to be 100% relied on. Like, it's not a, top 10 offense, but it's a, good enough offense to support that really good defense. So it's going to be up to the fact, because the Vikings certainly have no shortage of talent on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, obviously Kirk Cousins, in my mind, is still kind of more of like an average to above average quarterback. Like, he's not, I can certainly think of at least 8 or 9 that are better than him, but like probably 10. So, but I mean, they got Adam Thielen, they have Stephon Diggs, Dalvin Cook. I mean, if he hadn't sat out the last game, would have been the rushing leader by the end of the season. He just sat out the final game, so Derrick Henry got it instead. But yeah, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. I mean, and Kyle Rudolph, I feel like he's kind of like that Jason Witten-esque tight end, or like or like a Heath Miller type of tight end for when he was in Pittsburgh, to where he doesn't really put up big numbers, but he's always kind of there when you need him. He's just kind of that safety valve. So I think that's kind of underrated about the Vikings offense. So if they can find their offense, then I think they'll be okay. Because, Mike Zimmer's defense they'll be good. I mean, they kind of had question marks last year, but they sort of found it again this season. So the defense is going to hold up. Just can the offense stack up to the 49ers defense? So I see that as a little bit more likely than Titans over Ravens. But the other two I definitely agree on. Like Seahawks over Packers is highly likely considering I picked them. And then Texans over Chiefs I think is the least likely.
Okay, so Eric, you picked all 4 favorites. So if you were to be your confidence on your least confident to most confident, how would you sort these out?
I'm definitely in agreement with you guys for the most part here. I mean, I know the Texans beat the Chiefs earlier in the season, but I would just be surprised if they did it again. I don't know if Will Fuller is coming back for this game, but you can tell the Texans offense is not the same when he's not in there, because then the teams can put way more focus on DeAndre Hopkins as opposed to not being able to, when Will Fuller's in there, you can't really double team DeAndre Hopkins as much, or Will Fuller's going to destroy you. So, but when Will Fuller's not in there, it's like, okay, we can double team Hopkins, and then really we're good, because most of their other weapons really aren't that great. So I would be very surprised if the Texans beat the Chiefs. I think that would be my number one most surprising. Like, if I was going to pull a Connor and do a lock, like, or if we were doing survival, I would pick the Chiefs. And I just don't see the Titans beating the Ravens. I mean, we'd kind of talked about that in our preview when you had them, you had them getting to this point, which I had a different matchup with our hypotheticals. But if Tennessee had gone into New England and just like absolutely demolished them, then I would consider maybe switching my pick and picking the Titans instead. But I mean, they were running the ball like at will pretty much, but their passing game was not really working that well. They did good enough when they needed to, but Tannehill did have some kind of ugly throws in this game. And the Ravens have a better, New England's defense was number 1 this season, but I like New England's Baltimore's ability to be able to stop the run better than New England. I don't think Tennessee is going to be able to rely on their run game. I don't think the running game is going to be as successful as it was against New England. I mean, Derrick Henry's been doing pretty well. Obviously, he was the rushing leader at the end of the year, but I don't know, man. And then also Baltimore just has a way more dynamic offense than New England, and there's no way Tennessee is going to hold Baltimore to 13 points in Baltimore's home field. It's not going to happen. So I just don't think Tennessee's offense is dynamic enough to keep up with Baltimore. So I would also be very surprised if Tennessee beats them. And obviously, with both of these ones I just mentioned, I'm obviously really hopeful the Chiefs and Ravens both win, since I hate any non-Jaguar AFC South team. So,
I'll be with you on the KC one, but I really hope that Tennessee can somehow find a way.
I mean, I know you're a Steelers fan, so I totally I totally understand that. But but anyway, I don't know, Vikings over 49ers, that definitely intrigues me a little bit, because Zach and I were both in agreement on going into the playoffs that Minnesota was really like limping into the playoffs, but they had a great game against the Saints. And so I mean, obviously I have the 49ers getting to the Super Bowl, so I still think they should win. But I guess like, if you had told me this matchup was going to happen, like it probably would have been like on the bottom, or like it would have been like my most shocking one. But it's definitely moved up because of the way they played against the Saints, because I know we all had the Saints getting pretty far in the playoffs, and they were my preseason pick to get to the Super Bowl. And so the fact that the Vikings, did beat them, and, even for a little while there, they were like dominated. The Saints got back in it, but the Vikings, had a double-digit lead at one point, and that was very shocking to me. So seeing the way they did that in New Orleans, where New Orleans is typically dominant at home, like that kind of worried me a little bit with my 49er pick for the Super Bowl. But I'm still picking the 49ers to win this game. And then Seahawks over Packers, I agree with, is the most likely one that could happen. But the Seahawks didn't inspire me in their performance against the Eagles. I mean, everybody was talking about like how dominant their defense was, but I mean, Carson Wentz got knocked out really early in the game. They basically had like no wide receivers going into this game. I mean, so the Seahawks defense should have held them to 9 points. I mean, it would have been embarrassing for them in a way if they hadn't. And then Russell Wilson, like as good as he's been, like they still only got 17 points in that game. Like, I don't know, like it was kind of weird watching them.
Jason Myers, he did miss a field goal. I'll say that.
He had that blocked field goal.
Or blocked, it was blocked. But
yeah, he did have that blocked field goal. But I don't know. I mean, he had some a couple of big plays here and there, like he always seems to manage to do. But the offense overall, you can tell they're missing Chris Carson, because even though they got Lynch back, he had that one nice little touchdown run. But other than that, he didn't do anything. The other running back didn't have a great game or anything. It wasn't an inspiring, when I watched that game, even though the Packers, to me, out of the 4 teams that had a first round bye, to me, they're the worst of those 4 teams. When I finished watching that game, I wasn't man, Seattle's going to go in there and beat them. I I feel like Seattle's been pretty good all year, but I wasn't inspired by that performance. I mean, I wasn't really inspired by any of the 4 teams' performance in their wild card games other than the Vikings. So none of the, but even then they didn't inspire me enough to think for sure that they could beat San Francisco. So that's why I played it safe.
Okay.
On the home teams. But I am in agreement though that if any of them were for sure, or if any of the, if there was at least going to be one upset, Seattle over Green Bay would be my pick. But I'm going to keep the Green Bay pick, but that is my least confident one for sure. Because if Aaron Rodgers plays like he did in Detroit in Week 17, then Seattle probably will win. But I think for the playoffs, I think he's gonna find a way to be better. And but we'll see what happens, man. I'm excited for it. Unfortunately, I'm working a lot of nights this weekend, so I'm not going to go to see all the games. But I'll go back on Game Pass and watch them. I'm excited to see what happens with all of it. So,
okay, so you heard all of our thoughts on it. Keep in mind, I was 3-1 last week, but thank you guys for listening. Eric, like I said before, have a great birthday, man. I know you're going to be off in the next episode, so enjoy your little break. But it's always a pleasure to have you on this show. Same with you, Connor.
Thanks, so. I'm always.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, no problem. Yes.
So
I was excited for this one because I knew what I was going to be talking about, and it felt like it had been a while since we'd recorded an episode. So I was happy for this moment to finally come, and I'll be excited for the next one in a couple days. So the giveaway thing, that was a lot of fun too. Hopefully we get a lot of people to retweet and join that giveaway. So
and good luck to anybody.
Yeah, good luck.
Enters, and the winner will be announced in the next episode. So I'm excited for that too. So I am willing to spend $25 for my fans. So
Eric's trying to buy some fans here, but
totally.
Thanks guys for joining me on this episode, and we'll be back in a couple of days with another episode. It'll be the stories episode with Connor and Nate. I have a feeling Nate's going to talk about the Patriots, but I still don't know what my topic will be yet. Connor always waits to the last minute to pick his, so it should be another fun episode planned for you guys. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
See you guys.
Peace.